Peace and love, black families, the Prince of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson. We live and direct. I want to give a shout out to Black Ice TV. Make sure you watch it, support it. The news you can use, the information you can use. Youth, Pan-Africanism, economics, family, community. Make sure you support Black Ice TV because Dr. Umar Johnson does.
Sacred is sacred. On the die, mother and father is the basics. Rise like you're supposed to slip out the matrix. Still dumbstruck thinking this is entertainment. Escape to reality. Most lives are wasted.
I keep it raw like Sarasetti. Hotep, but if you're an enemy, you catch a broke net. Bang on the system like bullets from barrels released. Zulu Kemetic like African Bombata. The beast got a hold of the streets, rectify it like Malcolm. Watch your friends and your enemies, never doubt them. Never should you participate in their traditions, cause when you do, you put your own life into submission. Who's the victim? Tell me who the fuck will listen and step up and take charge. Most are caught slipping.
This is Gano Grills, and you're watching Titans TV and Black Ice TV 7. Did you get this punch in?
1, 2, 3, let's shoot it off. Hello everyone, all our YouTube fans, all our Facebook fans, all our UK fans, and our US fans, and the world fans as well. We've got someone great right now. He's by the name of Gano Grills. This guy is amazing. This guy is spiritual. This guy is an actor. I don't even know how to explain it. But we're going to have a good conversation with this guy. We want it up and personal. We want it to understand what's going on in people's lives and want to understand how we can actually control life by understanding his history, his information, and the things that he needs to help our own people. Gano Grills, how's things today?
Oh, everything is good. Thank you so much for having me. And this is my second home. I feel we're very at home here, and the audience is growing, so it's really good to participate in being able to add on to the equation. That's great.
Okay, as you know, this is Black Ice TV 7, you know, the people's choice. And Gano, we want to go straight to the point because, you know, we had this event last week and we had another event this week, and before we even actually step into that, we just want to have a little brief of your upbringing from a childhood to where you're at now.
Wow. Well, I was raised on Staten Island, New York, in Stapleton. Went to school like everybody else, graduated from high school. And I was actually a rapper for a long time. And one day, a really good friend of mine named Angel Barbosa, this is in, I think, 1996. He looked at me and said, you know, Gano, you're not really a rapper. You're really an actor, acting like a rapper. And when he told me that, that killed my desire to rap anymore. So it took me about 2 weeks to fully divest and, as you guys say, unpack that in my consciousness. And I had to make a decision as to what I was going to do with my life. And being that I hung up my lyrics, the question came from within, what is it that you have the most experience doing? And the answer was being an actor. I've been in a lot of plays and lots of other things. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to pursue that professionally and just be the best father that I can be, because at that time I had my 2 daughters. And life has been very interesting since. So you would have to probably ask me a more pointed, specific question, because I'm like an onion. There's lots of layers there. You know what I mean?
Okay, let's go through, like, for instance, I read something about your childhood, and you said that when you was in your childhood, and you said something about being bullied and things like that, and it put yourself into yourself kind of thing, which I kind of relate when you disconnect yourself from society and people around you. Give us a little abbreviation on that.
Well, you know, I think a lot of kids go through that. Back back in when I was coming up in elementary school and even middle school, you know, being bullied, not to the extent to which I wanted to kill myself, but, you know, just dealing with some of the skirmishes of how intolerable sometimes people can be. Going through that, I was very sensitive about how cruel sometimes people can be, and how people didn't keep their word, and how certain people would do certain things. I was very sensitive to that at an early age. And what it made me do was advance my study in human nature and why people do the things that they do, and really ask the questions, why is it like this? And one of the things that I came to realize is that a lot of the things that we celebrate, a lot of our values, are something wrong with that. And as I studied some of the questions that I had even going to church, because I was an avid attendee in church and Sunday school and reading the Bible, there were also questions that I could not get answered. I didn't have a satisfactory answer to the questions that I asked. So I didn't become a recluse, but I did shift gears in my awareness, and I became more astute at looking at things on a deeper level, and I became very analytical. And the question kept posing, why is it like this? I learned how to fight, thank God, you know, by doing push-ups in my room and working out and learning how to slap box. We would slap box for hours on the weekends, and just, you know, we have this thing called the 52 hand blocks where, you know, throwing a punch, you could block any kind of punch and also give it back. So that was something that I got very good in. And growing up in Stapleton, there was this crew called the Paris Crew. So Billy Johnson, Reddy Red, Tango, Thomas Knight, you know, there must have been about 40 guys in that crew. They were all amazing fighters, like heavyweight fighters that can fight you bare knuckles. And I saw this. I saw a lot of these fights, and, you know, they were knuckleheads. They would rob people and do certain things. So I came up in an era where it was kind of like Sparta, the gladiators, you know what I mean? And that era does not exist anymore, because nowadays kids will shoot you first if there's any type of threat to them. So my point is that really forged, it forged a lot of who I am now, in terms of seeing the world very differently from most people. A lot of times when I look at television or I look at the movies and certain things that our populace is entertained by, my mouth is open, because I'm looking around the room and I'm saying, does anybody else, did you just see that? Did you not see that that was bestiality, or that was an invitation for something of necromancy? And everyone just watches it, because people are so desensitized to things that people are not seeing the clear, specific assaults on their consciousness. And because people are so desensitized, they're able to be steered like cattle to a slaughter. And that's something that I'm passionate about helping people to realize and kind of be aware of, so that they don't become victims of these attacks.
Now, we've gone through your childhood, and then I'm trying to figure out, because everyone gets into this predicament it's quite a lot, where when it comes to forms of religion, because as for me, I was brought up as a Christian and as a Muslim. Now, for your side of things, as I said, I know that a lot of people from the States, they come through that Christianity. I want to give a little talk about, how did you find going through Christianity to where you are now?
Well, Christianity is something that, I was raised up in that. My great-grandmother always had me reading the Bible and some of the stories. That was something that there was always something about the religion that didn't sit well with me. There were certain things that just didn't add up. And ironically, Christianity led me into al-Islam. So I practiced Islam for a few years. I wore a long white robe. I prayed 4 to 5 times a day. I did zakat. I went to Juma. And I did lots of, salat and prayers. And it gave me the discipline to figure certain other things out. And I saw that Islam was an extension of Christianity. And this is one thing that I always said to people. I believe that the Muslims of the world are a lot more like the mythology of Jesus than the Christians, because the Muslims wear the sunnah, or they wear the attire of what Jesus wore. They prostrate their face to the ground. That's the same way that Jesus prayed. They have their beards. They give a lot. So a lot of times Muslims are looked at as terrorists, but as Farrakhan says, one man's terror is another man's freedom fight. So the two, going through those two schools of religion helped me to see that there's a lot more. I didn't get cut off at the knees, in my opinion, because I stayed open. And I left Al-Islam because also I started to develop questions about why there is so much oppression, why the woman is not equalized, and certain other things that didn't really resonate in my core, because I had the courage to ask some of the difficult questions that most people wouldn't dare do. Because when you challenge your own faith and you're not willing to look at or question the things that you believe year after year, you will get stuck. And I review my core beliefs on a regular basis. There were things that I believe today that I didn't believe last year, so it keeps you growing. So to answer the question, I would suggest to anyone that take a good, honest look at everything that you believe in and ask yourself if it is true to you. And if it is not, and if you've outgrown that belief, don't be afraid to move on upward and outward and explore more, because there is always more.
Yeah, so I kind of understand that. So, like, from the religion aspect, because, like, for me, I went through the religions, but then I was kind of more in that form of seeking. So I was trying to go through academia, but I still feel that there's some form of spiritual way of dealing with things. And the more I seeked that direction, I wasn't really getting the information that I needed. So I was just wanting to know, from that perspective of, how can I put it, through the churches and Islam, how did you find yourself to seek into that form of spirituality?
With that, I was always led by my conviction. So if there was something, again, that I didn't believe in, I had to step away from it. It was frightening sometimes, because there were times where I felt like I was very alone for a while, because there wasn't anything around that I could latch onto that kept my attention, that stimulated my beliefs or matched my beliefs. But eventually those things came. So when someone is seeking for divine truth as it is, you also have to understand that truths have derivatives. I heard Baba Phil Valentine say this, and I'm going to cite the source of what I'm about to say. Truth does have derivatives, because truth is derived from a certain school of thought or theosophy. However, reality is an extant, unchangeable circumstance that prevails no matter what you may believe. And when you tap into that reality, it doesn't matter what everybody else around you believe. You are part of I believe, the expanse of the all, or creation. So where I'm at now, to give you an example, I have relaxed and let go of my need of religion. I feel like I have graduated beyond that. And religion to me represents a kindergarten education, whereas spirituality will afford you the unlimited data, knowledge, and gnosis of all that there is to know. Academia, on the other hand, provides certain facts and historical data, and unfortunately, because those things vary from school to school, there are many people that debate on those things, and in my humble opinion, I believe that that's a waste of time. It's good to have the credulous of academia and have certain dates and certain periods that you know that the Moors were in Europe and then when they left Europe and certain of those things. But even behind that, there is still something inside of you that needs to evolve. And it is not your thirst for knowledge and academia. It is your need to feed your soul light, because everything has to feed. So there's a certain part of you that exists within your body that needs to have nourishment. And it isn't from academia, it isn't from religion, it is not from your workplace or your family life. The only thing that could give that part of yourself the satisfaction so that you don't create a void in your life is spirituality.
Yes, well, but I have another stage, right, where I can say let's say from that consciousness, how would, like they say, the quantum physics and you go into laws of attraction, so everything comes from mind.
So George Washington Carver said, okay. Then he posed another question. Why did God create man? And the answer came back the same. The answer to that question is too big for your little body. So he reduced the question to, okay, now at that time, the peanut was basically useless. And he knew that there was something about the peanut that could afford mankind a lot more than what we were getting from it. So we said, okay, then why did God create the peanut? And he spent the next 20 years of his life getting the answer to that question. So we still benefit to this day in the year 2016 from the question that George Washington Carver asked almost 100 years ago, which is, why did God create the peanut? He opened his consciousness to the overwhelming, insurmountable information that is available. And we have ethanol fuel, we have paints, we have different plastics, so many different technologies that come from the peanut alone. And he was the vicegerent of that. He was the one that ushered it in onto this earthly plane. My juxtaposition is that that kind of information is available to all of us if we are willing to ask the question in the right spirit to the right source, even if it just we ask ourselves. But we have to be open enough to receive the answer to the question, and it will come. So I don't.
Yeah, as we were speaking, so in what the answers you've given me there, now it brings me to what the main thing that we were at last week, the angels, gods, and altars. Now, the three combinations, because there's a lot of people that ask, but if you could give us just a small synopsis on the three things so that people out there can know who you are and what you're about that event.
Okay. Well, I represent something called Galacticus, which is not a human word. It is a movement that I was given to preside over on this planet. And the Angels, Gods, and Altar seminar is a very unique mixture of the gods, the angels coming together to give humanity certain information about them. And it is a seminar of empowerment. So there were certain things that I give to people that have been given to me that I've had to get permission to give to anyone who comes to this particular seminar. To give you an example, how to control time. That's one of the things that I have taught the New York audience. The Kundalini Reiki that happens the day after when people come for that activation, I taught them how to change their death codes and form a relationship with the angel of death named Archangel Azrael. A lot of people aren't even aware that he exists, but he's a very invaluable friend to have. And sure.
On that angel, does he have different names? would the angel have different names, or would he have that specific name?
He's known as that particular name, but if you study Kabbalah or if you study Sufism or mysticism of different kinds, he may be known as different names. Okay? And he is a very good friend of mine. And with this particular empowerment seminar, there's no one that walks away without a duffel bag full of things that they can utilize to change their lives. And I'm very proud and happy to have brought it here, because if people decide to employ less than 10% of what it is that I presented, their lives will change for the better.
Now, on the aspects of, let's take the first one, we've kind of gone over it. And then we go to the next one, which is the gods. Now, a lot of people have it like tightened that the one God, and they mix up the creator and the God. I just wanted you to quickly explain that, and how did your audience, even though in the UK, felt about it?
I think that, it cost £144 to come to this seminar. So there has to be a willingness and an openness just on that entry point alone to understand this. A willingness to really get this to be part of your life. The second part of it is, as I looked out at the audience as I was presented this, there were some people that were shocked, because a lot of the information that I presented challenged everything and certain things that they thought were true all of their lives, and they were really stunned to realize that that's not the case. And when you're looking at visual proof of certain things that challenge your core beliefs, that changes the game. So I think ultimately the people felt very elated, and the feedback was very good. There were one or two people I believe would need a little bit more time wrapping their mind around the voluminosity of the information that I presented. But overall, the things that people heeded to will be very helpful, and I think it was a great event, and people received it very well.
Yeah. Now we go to the part of the altar. And a lot of people always ask, what do I put on the altar, and how low should it be, how high should it be? But we just want a quick kind of what they can put on their altar, and how they can utilize their altar through their ancestors.
Okay. Well, the altar is a window. It's your personal window into the spirit world and other realms that are too big for you to access, that you don't have the software in your body to touch. So some of the basic things that can be on an altar that will make it active and generate certain or sufficient amount of energy should always have a white candle, a clear glass of water, never plastic. It should always be crystal. If you can afford a crystal chalice, they will appreciate the energy of that, and you should fill it to the tippy top, but where it looks like it's going to overflow. The water should be changed at least once a week, preferably on Sunday. You should have at least a year's worth of ancestor money on your altar. Some people call it joss paper, some people call it hell notes. I call it divine dollars or ancestor money. I have it available on galacticus.com. I also think that people should have the things that belong to their ancestors. They should have pictures of their ancestors. They can have a representation of the gods that they resonate with, gods that are powerful and are friendly to humans. To give you an example, Asar, Lakshmi, Lord Ganesh, Tahuti, Kuan Yin. These are gods that actually help humans to evolve. And those are some of the things that you need to have on your altar. And lastly, you need to have food on your altar. So you can have something like, you can have butternut squash, you can have a pumpkin, a large pumpkin, a cantaloupe would last for maybe a week. And you also need to have a plate or a saucer of food and have it there on a daily basis. to feed your ancestors.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, if they needed any stuff to put on their altar and you can provide, how would they contact you?
Okay. The website is called galacticus.com, and that is spelled GALIGHTICUS. We have full service from consultations to ancestor sets, divine sets, and what have you. That's what it is.
You ready?
Yes, and you know what? I got raindrops on me, and that's not good continuity. Okay, good, I'm ready.
Yeah, as we were speaking earlier on, we was talking about all the ancestral money and things that you can put on your ornament, and I just wanted to know, like, because a lot of people will ask the question, where can I get the money from, and where can I get the ornaments and things that I can put on my altar? So it just give them the audience a quick preview of where they can get it from on your site or wherever they can get it.
You can get it from galacticus.com. That's spelled GALIGHTICUS. And we have everything that is needed not only for your altar, but for your spiritual education. I do personal consultations. We have services that will balance everyone out. And we also have the Galacticus studentship program. And that program is very powerful. And also, people can reach out to me directly. And we have 150 videos on YouTube. And it's galacticus.com on YouTube. And that's where we can begin at.
Okay. And we thank you for coming to the UK. And we're going to enjoy you even more when you come back. Absolutely. Because it's going to be a big explosion in the UK when he comes. So don't miss it this time. And go to his YouTube channel. Yeah, because all the information is there, and if you need to go there, as he explained his website, reach it, tap into it, and even try and see if you can get a consultation from him. All right? So people, I love you all. This is Terry Riggs, Richard in the back scene there, smiling as usual, Super Cat, and we've got Gano Grills once again in the UK.
Give thanks. This is Gano Grills, and you're watching Black Ice TV 7 here in the UK. I'm very happy to be here. Peace and blessings.